kind friends all gathered round. Something I will say, that what brings us together here has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where as strangers are as family and loneliness can't hide. You must give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. I've walked these mountains in the rain. I've learned to love the wind. I've been up before the sunrise to watch the day begin. Always knew I'd find you, though I never did know how. But like sunshine on a cloudy day, you stand before me now. You must give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Love is born in fire. It's planted like a seed. Love can't give you everything, but it gives you what you need. Love comes when you're ready. Love comes when you're afraid. It will be your greatest teacher, the best friend you have made. You must give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Oh, thank you so much. Lovely to be here with you today. That song was an old folk song by folk singer Kate Wolf, Give Yourself to Love. I do that song for weddings, funerals, any occasion, but especially for this, because this is all about loving this beautiful planet that we live on. And my disclaimer right away, I'm not an expert on anything, maybe a little bit with guitar, but again, it's about loving this beautiful planet. But I do have a PhD, passion, heart, and dedication. So I want you to imagine we're on a spaceship way out in space. We've only got so much air, so much water. Basically, that's us, Earth. We've got a limited amount of resources that are not going to be resupplied unless the aliens come down. Come on down, we need some help. But seriously, my favorite class in college was entitled Spaceship Earth. Dr. Weldon was a very eccentric professor, and we got credit for keeping journals and watching shows like Jacques Cousteau and National Geographic. But it was a term coined by Buckminster Fuller about 1951 or 52. You might remember him. How many people have been to Disney World, Epcot Center? The geodesic design was Buckminster Fuller, and there used to be a ride there called Spaceship Earth. He wrote a manual for Spaceship Earth on how to take care of our planet. But you probably know our Earth is covered 70% with water, but only 2% of that is drinkable, and that's frozen up in our glaciers and our ice caps, which are melting at alarming rates, as you know. So water has become very precious. Some people call it blue gold, and I think it calls for being more conservative, especially with our population growing exponentially. In the year 1800, we almost reached 2 billion people on the planet, and that took thousands of years. In the last 200 years, we're almost up to 8 billion people. And it's, going to keep growing exponentially. And especially here in Colorado is the second fastest growing state in the USA. So I'm really, really glad I found this slide when I was doing my research. Let's see if you can see that a little better. The green is the population size, and the red is the energy use. Take a look at the USA. Smaller population, and look how much energy we use. I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, if I left a room in the house, my parents would say, hey, turn that light off. So I think we need to get back to some of those practices. So I did grow up south of Cleveland, a little town called Berea, where the Cuyahoga River, which was aptly named by the Native Americans, meaning Crooked River, was so polluted in the 1960s that it used to catch on fire. Seriously. I remember doing art projects on this when I was in elementary school in the 60s, and it really made an impact on me. So I've really been an activist all my life. Some people say it caught on fire 13 times, who knows? But the 13th time it caught on fire in 1969, it caught the attraction of Time magazine, which was really a great thing because that began to raise people's awareness on environmental issues. And it preceded the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the EPA. And keep in mind, this was under the Nixon administration, so Tricky Dick really did some good stuff. You might recognize Paul Krugman. He writes a lot for the New York Times. He referred to the Cuyahoga River fires as being the beginning of environmentalism. However, when I started to do my research, I found out environmentalism has been around ever since the beginning of civilization. Now, some of the first problems were sanitation, if you can imagine that. But look at that, 2700 BC, some of the first laws to protect trees and forests. And, our forests here in Colorado, this shows a picture of the pine beetle kill. And due to climate change, warmer temperatures, the winters don't get cold enough to kill off these pine beetles. So just a little bit about the history of environmentalism. George Catlin was one of the first people to suggest making national parks. He was the famous painter of Native Americans, and he visited over 50 Indian tribes doing his painting. And the Native Americans, of course, were some of the best environmentalists of all. They were very conscious with using the whole animals when they killed them. And so my favorite saying has always been, Earth does not belong to man, man belongs to the earth. And if you think of it, we're all connected like a spider web. When someone affects one part of that web, it's going to affect us all. We're all in this together. Another way I heard this put recently, if we take care of the land will take care of us. So just a little bit on the history. Emerson wrote beautiful essays on nature. Henry David Thoreau, lived by Walden Pond, and actually climate scientists are using his data today because he took such meticulous notes of when the pond would thaw out in the spring, when things were growing, when the animals would come out. So that was pretty interesting to find that out. John Muir was instrumental in starting the first state park, Yosemite, and the founder of Sierra Club, one of my favorite organizations. Now, Teddy Roosevelt used the Antiquities Act to proclaim more national monuments and parks than any other president, including Mesa Verde, which is right here in Colorado. How many people have been to Mesa Verde? Yeah. There it is right there. And can anyone say how many state parks we do have here in Colorado? There's Black Canyon, and these are the national parks, but 42 state parks in Colorado. And I encourage people to get out into the beauty of nature, and perhaps that would inspire you to be better stewards of the planet. How many people go camping or have been backpacking? What is the camper's motto? Yeah, leave no trace. I think this is what we need to be doing every day in our homes, in our community. Leave no trace. So this is the first song, and I do it along with the CD because doing it solo wouldn't do it much. It's just hard to do solo. It's a kind of a satirical song, which means it's kind of joking, but it's serious. And I wrote this back when I had that class, Spaceship Earth. And it's all about when the Industrial Revolution began.
Built you walls, you made them so tall, so beautiful to you. Have everything cemented, Mother Nature so demented. Why didn't she think of that? Trying to teach Mother Nature about economy. Trying to teach her human practicality. We're so practical, practical. Slip down the mountain, thanks to all the spouting lava. Cost so much to relocate, can't fill my Mr. Coffee with no Java. No Java. Changing Mother Nature everywhere we go. Soon we'll have to answer, and what do you know?
These are all the oil and gas wells, the red and the orange being the most. And then these are all the oil and gas wells in Weld and Boulder counties in Colorado.
Everywhere we go, soon we'll have to answer. What do you know?
Okay. I'm going to cut off that ending there. It's kind of a dark ending. So, who can tell me what diversion rate is? Well, it's simply how much we divert from the landfill by recycling and composting, but more importantly, reduce and reuse. Those 3 R's are in order of importance: reduce, reuse, recycle. Back in 2010, I know these are old figures, but California's always been very progressive. They had a diversion rate back then of 80%. 2010 in the city of Boulder, just 35% diversion rate. Now it's gone up a lot. In the year 2016, we made a zero waste ordinance here in Boulder, the city of Boulder. So every home and every business is required to have recycle, compost, and trash. So our diversion rate has gone up. If you see 2018 up to 51%. But Colorado is still one of the top worst states for recycling. Only 20% rate compared to the USA. Total USA is 34%. And less than half the counties in Colorado have curbside recycling. Now, EcoCycle, one of my other favorite organizations, was one of the first curbside recycling here in Boulder, Colorado. In 1976 they started. Now, they, along with the EPA, say that 42% of our greenhouse gases come from the way products are extracted from the earth, produced, transported, and gotten rid of. Even recycling and composting takes energy. So again, reduce and reuse. So think about your diversion rate at your home. Mine has gone down a lot. I put a compost in my yard, about 12 years ago. And of course, you can only put organic food in your yard compost. The corn cups and compostable plates and that kind of thing needs to end up in a commercial compost. So now since we got our zero waste station here in our neighborhood, I just take my trash can down and empty it, and I reuse that plastic bag. That's a lot of plastic bags to save. Other things, I never buy Ziploc bags anymore. I wash them out and reuse them. Being conscious of single-use plastic packaging at the stores. Taking reusable containers when you go out to eat, that can make a huge difference because most restaurants use styrofoam. Now we're trying to get a bill passed in Colorado to get rid of polystyrene, or more commonly known as styrofoam. Hopefully that'll pass this year in 2020. But along with my reusable shopping bags in the car, I keep little tubs for leftovers at restaurants. So I'm going to try to offer solutions. Ask yourself, what can I do between sections here? If you're financially well off, you might donate to your favorite organization. If you're not so financially well off, you could volunteer your time. Here's some local. Pachamama is not really local. Linda and John Twist started that in San Francisco, and they're mostly helping the indigenous people down in Ecuador. But Awakening the Dreamer Symposiums go on all over the place. If you ever get a chance, go see one. It's great. The Inland Ocean Coalition, the Earth Guardians, are awesome. They started right here in Boulder, Colorado. Of course, EcoCycle I mentioned. Green Team Academy and Joan Gregerson is doing awesome things. And Barefoot Books is an alternative children's book publisher. Now, I'm not going to show the trailer for this film, but it kind of prefaces the next song. The first half of this movie was so disturbing, I thought we might as well give up. But then the second half was all about solution, and that's what I'm trying to do here today. So this song is another one I wrote back when I had that class, Spaceship Earth, and it is kind of dark, but I promise to get more optimistic. To the fields to deplore the dying of human souls. What did I feel? Felt like drowning the earth in my tears. Nobody feels. They just live on the loneliness so still. So went to the city to deplore the birth of the crazy man. Did he feel? It felt like nothing around him was real. He just ran himself, screaming out he wasn't a man anymore. So went to a friend, told him about what was in my head. This is what he said. He said, hey, you're not alone. Yeah, I know.
Sometimes I get so to the fields to deplore the dying of human souls. What did I feel? I felt like drowning the earth in my tears. Nobody feels. They just live on alone in the seats of steel. Went out to the fields to deplore the dying of human souls. Dying of human souls, dying, dying, dying of human souls.
Oh, thank you so very much. By the way, that video, I entered that in the Denver EPA, Environmental Protection Agency office. They had an Earth Day contest in 2015, and my video won the best video, and then Annie Gifford won the best artwork. She's a colleague of mine here in Boulder too. So ask yourself, what can I do? Localization is really key. The more you can grow food locally, it takes less transportation, and the more you can, even banking locally is better for the local economy and the planet. Now, of course, in the summer we've got a bunch of great farmers markets around here, and you could get a lot of great organic and other fruits and vegetables. Now, CSA's, Community Supported Agriculture, has been around for many years. If you don't know what that is, it's a farm that grows their food, and you can either donate money or your time, and then you get fresh organic produce in return. It's a great thing. This last year we did 63rd Street Farm, and they're just fabulous. So this friend of mine, she was one of the first friends I met when I moved here in 1974 in Boulder, when I came from Ohio. Marilyn Gleason, she lives up in Newcastle now, which is just west of Glenwood Springs. If anyone's heard of Barbara Kingsolver, that wrote a book called Animal, Mineral, Vegetable, where they did a real-life experiment. Her and her family, they bought a little farm in Pennsylvania, and they vowed for an entire year that they would only eat food that they grew, or they did a lot of canning and stuff to last the whole year. I call Marilyn Gleason the Barbara Kingsolver of Garfield County. She's got her own garden, of course, but it's a big farm. They've got sheep. She's got chickens and geese. A few years ago, we picked local peaches, and we did some canning with that. Here she is drying some apricots. And I go up there, and her boyfriend is a beekeeper, Ed Colby, and he's got a lot of beehives all around that area. And I go up there every summer and visit, and we have a lot of fun. And may I say, she fixes us a lot of delicious organic and local food. So even if you don't believe in climate change, we really cannot continue to keep living as a disposable society and support the number of humans on this planet. We've got, again, a limited amount of resources that are not going to be resupplied. So if you look in that trash can, you see an item that you might have used for 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and then you throw them away. We're so used to convenience. And can anyone tell me what is the main ingredient in plastic? Yes, oil, petroleum. So even it takes energy to produce, transport, and to get rid of. Something I want you to try to remember, every time you buy something, every time you throw something away, where is it coming from and where is it going? It'll increase your mindfulness and awareness. So, can anybody tell me what this blank blank station is called? Zero waste station. Now, it doesn't mean absolutely zero, but we strive to get as close to that as we can. A couple things I want to say. Take a couple extra minutes when you're putting your item in one of these bins and make sure you're putting it in the right bin. One of the biggest problems with the whole recycle thing is called contamination. That's simply where people put the wrong thing in the wrong bin. And if it's very, very contaminated, it's going to end up in the landfill. So very important. And one of the most common mistakes that people make, especially at home when recycling, they collect all their cans, bottles, paper in a plastic bag and throw the whole plastic bag in the recycle bin. The recycle center does not want any plastic bags. You can recycle those separately at like King Soopers and Safeway. The reason is I've been to the recycle center and you can see the bags get caught in the machinery and then they have to shut it down, costing time and money. So that's really no plastic bags in the recycle. Now composting, a lot of people think, hey, well, it's biodegradable, so it's okay to send to the landfill. Well, the whole purpose of composting is to keep organic materials, which is food, anything organic, even paper, cardboard, out of the landfill, because the process by which at the landfill, they dig down and they dump everything in there and then they cover it with plastic and the sun beats down and it heats that up and methane gas escapes. Methane is up to 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So really, really important. The whole purpose in compost, keep it out of the landfill and get it in the commercial compost. So EcoCycle and the EPA also says that striving for zero waste is one of the easiest, quickest ways that we can fight climate change. Lots of simple things we can do. Okay, I am going to show the trailer for this documentary on bottled water.
As Mark Twain once said, whiskey is for sipping and water is for fighting. And there's going to be a lot about this before it's done.
If you unite and tell them they can't take our water. We want our water back.
Make sure next thing you do, you go all the way back here to us, so now you find out.
We were mapped out without our knowledge and consent.
They never notified anybody in town. They just started pumping water.
They never stopped pumping the water.
118 million gallons of water.
Over 400,000 gallons a day. And this was at the height of the drought.
This is a real collision of moral values against these narrow profit concerns of corporations.
We should be standing in about 5 feet of water right now where we're standing.
They really see water as blue gold. So if it disappears 10 years down the road, they've made their profit.
They're making the profit and we're suffering.
These companies are taking our water and selling it back to us. And we think that we're getting something great in return.
And the problem is they're unaware that bottled water is not necessarily safe. You end up being exposed to other chemical compounds.
The product is safe.
Bottled water is a safe, healthy, convenient product.
Our product is safe. The package is safe. I don't see any long-term effect presented by our package.
If you were to look at all the data I brought and you read everything, you'd be horrified. Horrified.
Something causes a lot of these neighbors around here to be sick. It's not just me.
You asked for studies from independent sources.
We don't normally ask for independence.
Then you don't protect the American people.
My concern is that the FDA doesn't want us to ask about BPA because of the current investigation. Can you talk about it now?
If I had known you were going to talk about that, probably wouldn't have given you the interview.
There's going to be hell to pay over this.
Responsible to us, not to this corporation.
We've got to start
industry always asks us to do. Think everything's okay?
So they said in the beginning of this trailer, they are stealing our water and then selling it back to us. A few years ago, I visited Mount Shasta, California. They were in the middle of a drought, but one of these plastic bottle companies was continuing to pump water out of their aquifer and then, take it and sell it and make a profit. Then a couple other stories I want to just interject here. I think it was in 2014, I did a trip. I went to Grand Teton National Park. Now, when I went through the gate, the ranger handed me a newspaper. On the front page, there was a big paragraph talking about how boasting that they have some of the best water in the country coming out of the ground right there, and urging people to reuse their water bottles. But then I went through Yellowstone, and I cannot tell you how many people I saw with flats and flats of bottled water. Anyway, then a few days later, I ended up in South Dakota for a family reunion, and one day, my 16-year-old cousin, obviously she was very thirsty, she drank 3 plastic bottled waters in a row and threw them in the trash. Just take a second and think about that. To me, that's just insane. And I never go anywhere without my reusable water bottle. So just a little bit about plastic bottled water. 40% is just from the tap, and it gets tested a lot less than our city water gets tested, so you don't really know what you're getting. We use 34 billion bottles a year. We pay more for water than gasoline sometimes. And the really disturbing thing is fewer than 20% are recycled. And again, the main ingredient in plastic is petroleum, and we need to be conservative with that too. Limiting this could limit our carbon footprint. So I'm a member of Business and Professional Women. We've been around since 1919, now over 100 years now. One of the first organizations to support the ERA, Equal Rights Amendment, written in 1923, which is still not ratified here in the U.S., but almost. Anyway, we do, BPW Boulder chapter does a big celebration every year called Celebration of Women. And in 2018, Molly McPherson is this awesome student at Fort Lewis College down in southern Colorado. I went to Adams State, so I was her neighbor. Anyway, we gave her an award. She got the highest award for Girl Scouts. I think it's called the Gold Star Award. And her project was saving the world one bottle at a time. She's just awesome. Hi, Molly, if you're out there somewhere. So you might have seen, these are just a great idea. LK came up with this water fountain where you can refill your bottle or whatever with filtered water, and then in the corner it's got that little green window saying how many bottles that you've saved, plastic bottles. I'm trying to get them to be a sponsor for this. So the lack of clean water is showing most in the yellow and the orange. Now, in my BPW International, we had a conference in 2017 in Cairo, Egypt, and I never drank more bottled water than ever in my life. We had to, because their city water is not very clean. And what I did hear someone, a BPW chapter in another part of the world, her project, she's trying to get water stations built in towns and cities where the tourists and whoever can refill their bottled water through filtered stations. So that's a great idea. Now, bad water is the leading cause of death in the world, not in the U.S., of course, but in the world. Something I did not know. And so I have to share a little bit. When we did go to Cairo, this here, Teddy Roosevelt sent around the Great White Fleet, the Navy. He sent it around the world between 1906 and 1909 to show the world how powerful we were. My grandfather, who I didn't meet, he died right before I was born. He's the second from the left in front of the Sphinx and the pyramid. So I wanted to recreate that picture. Well, there's a fence by the Sphinx now, so I couldn't get that exact angle, but here I am. I'm the second from the left with my colleagues. It was so exciting. And then we went on a trip on the Nile River on the Dabahaya sailboat. Our BPW colleague from Germany owns Sail the Luxor, or the Luxor Sail the Nile. Anyway, you can look her up. So I'm not going to talk much about fracking. Fracking is fracturing. It's sending water down into the earth at a high pressure, and it fractures, and then they can collect their oil. But one of the first things I found out when I started researching this, just to frack one well, it takes up to 8 million gallons of water, and it has to be trucked in. It can't be from a nearby river or stream because the bioorganisms mix with the chemicals, so it has to be trucked in. So think about all that extra CO2 that's going up in the atmosphere. Of course, people are concerned about chemicals and the release of methane. Methane, again, up to 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Okay, so our Colorado River here is basically an endangered species due to climate change and population growth. And the water doesn't even reach the Sea of Cortez anymore down by Baja, California. It gets used up way before. And just a little story here I like to tell. I met the Earth Guardians in 2010 at a coal ash hearing in Denver. And there was a woman. How many people remember the movie Silkwood? Meryl Streep. She was the whistleblower for the nuclear plant, and she was getting death threats and everything. I met a real-life Silkwood. It was this Native American woman from the Four Corners area. She was an activist trying to get the companies to stop dumping the coal ash into the rivers. Can you believe that still goes on? Activists get killed around the world. Down in South America, they get murdered all the time. So, but if you want to know more, there's a great movie, Watershed, that Robert Redford narrates. And then you can go to savethecolorado.org. Now, other ways that you can help with water is getting rid of hazardous waste properly. Landscaping instead of grass, consider xeriscape. Those are native plants that don't use much water. Conserving water in restaurants, they don't need to give you a glass of water unless you ask for it. I got a free efficient toilet from the city of Boulder a few years ago. Well, it cost me $25 to pick up. Turning off the water while you're shaving or brushing your teeth. Taking shorter showers. Now, I'm really helping out. I've just completely stopped taking showers. You believe me? Okay, speaking of believe. This song's more positive. I wrote this in 1995 for the 25th anniversary of Earth Day. Now that makes 2020 the 50th. I am so excited this year that it's the 50th anniversary. So anyway, the 25th anniversary, I thought that was pretty exciting, so I wrote this song. And the photography is by my dear friend, Carl Snyder. To me this morning as I prayed for love. It's hard to believe that anything. Today the world just moves so fast, we've got no time to sing. Computer addiction, too much work and too much greed. No time to even think. Mobile phones distracting from our feelings, our presence on the brink. What do we believe in? Is there something more precious? Carrying corporations flaunting power and might. What's in their way? They're just a race. Raping rainforests, destroying life we can never replace. If we can see with our eyes, I'm sure we feel it with our hearts. There's a stranglehold on the earth. All we need to do is believe and figure out what it's worth. What do we believe in? Have the money gods taken our souls? I don't know about a lot of things, but some things I just know. I believe in something greater. I believe in love. I believe in all of nature and something beyond that. I believe in majestic mountains and deserts and extraordinary things. I believe in everybody. Sometimes I even hear the angels say. There's no words to describe the aching in my soul. I don't comprehend uncaring posture. The feeling is just so cold. Why the lack of gratitude for the vast and beautiful sky? Without the breath of precious air, who would even be of a white leafy frost, and my spirit begins to lift. Depression's hard to fight, but when it's actually life, is such a gift. I see the sun shimmers, new grown leaves. What would life be like without trees? Embrace the earth and care about each other. I'm begging you, please. What do we believe in? We believe that we're just victims of fate. Decide what you believe in. Strong faith has a lot of weight. I believe in something greater. I believe in love. I believe in all of nature and something beyond death. I believe in majestic mountains and deserts and extraordinary things. I believe in everybody. Sometimes I even hear angels sing. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe in love. Oh, thank you so much. So my dear friend Carl, he took care of several websites for businesses up in Estes Park, and he took care of a website for Rocky Mountain National Park. And he passed away unexpectedly a few years ago, and I miss him so much. I did not know him all that long. I met him in about 2007, but I think it was our connection with nature. And you saw the pictures of those beautiful white mountain goats, one of my favorite animals. He took me up on Mount Evans a couple of times, and that's where he got some of those pictures. But anyway, I always thank him. Thank you, Carl. So, how many people have heard about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? A gyre is a natural occurrence in every ocean. It's just in the middle where the current slows down. So all that plastic that blows off of our shorelines all over the world into the ocean is ending up in these gyres. Now the North Pacific one being the largest. This is kind of what it looks like out there. And, 10 years ago or so, some were saying it was twice the size of Texas. Some people say now it's bigger than the whole entire USA. Now, if you're a fisherman, you know that fish will bite at color. They'll bite at anything. So they bite at the plastic, and so over 100,000 sea mammals die each year due to plastic, and over 1 million seabirds. Now here's an albatross, and she's decayed, and you can see the plastic in her stomach. It just breaks my heart every time I see that picture. Okay, I'm going to show the trailer. This is one of the best environmental films I've ever seen. Susan Barraza is a brilliant filmmaker down in Telluride, Colorado. And the guy who narrates it, he's funny, and he's got a good sense of humor, so he keeps it light, but it's great info. Check it out.
This story begins with a single plastic bag. One bag that I got from my local grocery store to carry home a single container of peach yogurt. Once I got home, I shoved the bag in with all the other bags, next to another bag full of other bags, and I never really thought about it. Maybe I tried not to think about it. I mean, I'm an average guy. I'm not what you consider a tree hugger. I try to be informed, I try to do the right thing, but I find that it can all be a bit overwhelming at times. I live in a small town in Colorado, and it wasn't until my town challenged another town a few hours away to see who could reduce their use of plastic bags the most that I first started to think about plastic bags and what we do with them. I mean, we all have a lot of bags, right? Everybody does the same thing. We collect them, we shove them anywhere they'll go, like under the sink, into closets, junk drawers. We throw a pile away every now and then just to be done with them, because they're disposable, right? They were created to be thrown away. But let's face it, there's a dirty little secret here, even if we won't admit it. Just because plastic is disposable doesn't mean it just goes away. After all, where is away? There is no away. It actually sticks around for a really long time. That got me thinking about all the endless products made out of plastic. A lot of them designed to be used for less than 1 day. Heck, less than 15 minutes even. Once I began looking around, pretty much everything seemed to be made of plastic. Could all this plastic in my life maybe even be bad for me? So I started looking into it. The way it doesn't go away, the way it pollutes, the way it flies and floats and drifts and clogs and entangles, the way it gets into things so big and so small, the way we can't escape it anymore, the way eventually we may not have any recourse. We'll all just simply have to stand up and say, bag it. Ice cream doesn't come in plastic.
So, along with not taking showers, I'm really helping out. All I eat now is ice cream. No, but in the beginning, he talks about how Telluride challenged another town to a competition to see who could reduce their plastic the most. Americans love competition, so you can imagine how excited I was. I get the newsletter, the e-newsletter from the E-Center, Environmental Center at CU, and the CU Buffs were the first university college in the country to go zero waste. And I called up Sarah Dawn and I said, we gotta get all the other colleges to do this and the NFL. And she sent me these 2 links, these websites, and it's happening. They're not all doing zero waste, but they're doing recycle. So I'm so excited because this will educate so many people. So many people go to football and baseball and all that. I wanted to mention a new movie coming out. The Story of Plastic is going to premiere on Earth Day, April 22nd this year, 2020, on the Discovery Channel. So watch for that. Annie Leonard started the Story of Stuff. Look up the original Story of Stuff video on YouTube because it's so good. Annie Leonard now is the executive director of Greenpeace. But anyway, so she had something to do with this movie. So just a little bit about plastic bags. 60,000 plastic bags per second, 3 million per minute, 100 billion per year, and very few are recycled. And many of them end up in the oceans. Again, the amount of petroleum that we use, look at that, 12 million barrels. I think that's, every year. That's $500 billion we could be using towards clean energy. They say that each person uses up to about 800 pounds per year of plastic, and that's a lot if you think how lightweight plastic is. So ask yourself, what can I do? Reduce your single-use plastics. I said earlier, I wash my Ziploc bags out and my plastic bags and reuse them. I hope people are using their reusable shopping bags. Now you can use them in other places besides grocery stores. You can use them when you go out clothes shopping or whatever. Again, I'm going to mention, if I'm going out for Chinese, I know I'm going to have leftovers. I take Tupperware with me. Buying in bulk can help, and there's a lot of events that I go to around Boulder where people, like potlucks, and people bring their own plates and silverware, and that's a great way to go to. So who can tell me the 3 R's? Croaky, come on. What are the 3 R's? Okay. Oh, there's 2 new ones, okay? Refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle. I want to talk about repair because the other thing that we're so used to convenience as Americans, when something breaks, we run out and buy a new one. Well, you know what? A lot of this stuff can be repaired. I could tell you a story about that, but we don't really have time. But anyway, so how many people have been to our beautiful neighbor out west of Colorado? Yeah, Utah. I've been going there since 1986, and it's been a place of spiritual healing for me. I can't tell you how much. And so I had to write a song, and it turned out to be the title cut of my first album that came out in 1996. Now, I'm not a professional photographer, but these are just pictures I've taken over the years. I hope you enjoy it. Utah dream keeps running over through my mind. Utah dream, just get me there and I'll be fine. More I see, desert visions, I can be serene. Nowhere nothing like Utah dream. And I don't know if I'd ever gone there if I hadn't read Desert Solitaire. The stories that he told brought burning tears. When you're there, it's like something from a movie scene. Nowhere nothing like Utah dream. Firelight dancing on the canyon walls. Desert storm kinda makes you feel small. Colors there that you've never even seen before. So much you taught us, you can never be poor. And if you haven't seen every single star, you don't have to go too far. Colorado around the bend, heaven's like the sands. Solitude feels like the world's at peace again. I never want this Utah dream to end. Nowhere nothing like Utah dream. Nowhere nothing like Utah dream. Oh, thank you. So Needles District, it kind of looks like Needles, how it got its name. It's there's three parts of Canyonlands: Needles District south of Moab, and then the Island in the Sky and the Maze on the west. But you might have recognized some pictures of Zion and Bryce. And one of the places I haven't explored yet is Grand Staircase Escalante. I hope to go there soon. Okay. All right. This is my favorite part of the program. I got to get on my high horse for a minute. This is my biggest pet peeve. I was on a trip back east in 2011. And this is in Manhattan. I wish I would have taken a better picture. There were so many trash bags. I don't know how many. Anyway, I went in and I asked the manager, how often do you get your trash picked up? He said, oh, every evening. Every evening it's like this. So he estimated he uses around 2,000 paper cups that are not recyclable. They've got a plastic coating for the hot liquid. 2,000 cups a day. Now, when I got home, I called the corporate office and I said 3 times, are you sure? They said there's 171 Starbucks in Manhattan. I looked it up. Today, there's over 200. Anyway, so I'm being conservative. 171 stores multiplied by, say, 1,500 cups. That's 250,000 cups in a 23 square mile area every day. I mean, wrap that around your brain. How insane that is. So, around the world, billions of these cups are going to the landfill every day. And think about the paper it takes to make them, too. I just can't stress enough. We need to reduce and reuse. I keep a real cup in my car when I go out for coffee, but they're not letting us do that right now because of COVID-19. But anyway, they even have a reusable cup at Starbucks. It costs $2, and you can reuse it and get 10 cents off every time you reuse. Again, styrofoam should be banned. It takes hundreds and hundreds of years to decompose, and it poisons the environment. So 350. I'm not a scientist, but 350.org was created by Bill McKibben. And basically 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide is the safe limit in the atmosphere to sustain life on the planet. And we are well over 400 right now. So what else can you do? Driving less. COVID-19's going on right now. The air is clearing up all in LA, in China, all over the planet. The waterways are cleaning up. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Doing your errands around the same part of town so you drive less. Drive-thrus like at McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell should be for seniors or people with disabilities. I can't tell you how many times I see a place like that and there's 15, 20 cars sitting there idling. Now, when your car's idling, it puts out a lot more CO2. And it's actually against the law. It's called puffing, to let your car sit idling. Up in Aspen, if you get caught, it's $100 fine. Conserving water and electricity, of course. Look up vampire power. You can save all kinds of energy at home by plugging things into power strips or keeping appliances not plugged in. If they're plugged in, they're still using energy. That's why it's called vampire or phantom energy. Eating less meat can help. And buying local, I'll say again. And all these little things can reduce our carbon footprint. There's so many simple things we can do. So, yeah, Bill McKibben of 350.org says, we are under attack from climate change, and our only hope is to mobilize like we did in World War II. Now, Al Gore, in 2017, he came to the Denver Convention Center, and me and one of my BPW colleagues, Kathy Kelly, anyway, we got to do the training. It was just incredible. And it was 3 days long. He paid for everything. They even served vegetarian meals. It was all free. And then at the end, we got these workbooks. We got access to his website and his slides and presentations. And this little pin, I have it on wrong. It's, wait, you gotta see this. There, the green, it's a green pin, a circle, the delicate atmosphere around our planet. Anyway, it was all free, and I hope you've seen his old movie, Inconvenient Truth. Of course, he made a new one recently, and you can look that up. Okay, so this is the last song, and I was on a hike in about 2007 in my favorite spot, Needles District Canyonlands in Utah. And I was by myself, and right away on the hike, this little voice kept going over in my head. What can I do? What can I do? What can little old me do? And I wrote the whole lyrics on the hike. I actually got to sing this at the 2008 Denver Democratic Convention. And it also was a top 10 winner in the World Song Contest, Peace Song Contest. So anyway, now the photography of the nature is by John Fielder. He only gave me 13 pictures, so I had to add some people photos. So here you go. What can I do? What can I do to help this planet? To help out you? Don't care about your color. I don't care if you're white. All of the rainbow makes up all the light. What can I do? What can I do to help this planet? To help out you? I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're Jew. As long as you're peaceful in what you pursue. Don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're straight. All family values, I don't include hate. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're poor. If you have love, you'll have so much more. What can I do? What can I do to help this planet? To help out you? This world's run by money. This world's run by greed. However, it's love that everyone needs. Just love your neighbor as much as yourself. You have so much more. You have so much wealth. What can we do? What can we do to end this madness? It's all up to you. Oh, thank you so much for tuning in with me today and watching. watching this. I can't tell you how passionate I am about this beautiful planet. But hey, what if climate change is just a big hoax and we create a better world for nothing? Oh. All right, it all starts with awareness. I just want to sum up at the end. Education, there's lots of great movies out there. Ecocycle.org is a great resource. People all around the world look up to their model. Become an eco-leader. It's a program of Ecocycle where it used to be called the block leader, and like I go to 10 or 12 houses on my block every year and take the Ecocycle newspaper and talk to my neighbors about, you know, the most common mistakes and things that they can do to help. So it's called the Eco Leader program now. Start an eco group in your church or your organization, and be a conscious consumer. Women especially make the choices for food and water all over the world. I mean, women in Africa and children have to walk miles and miles each day just to get water, and they make decisions on agriculture, and so women are really important in the climate movement. Again, I'm going to tell you, every time you buy something, every time you throw something away, where is it coming from and where is it going? And above all, take action, reduce and reuse, the most important, and treat your home, your condo, your apartment like a spaceship. You've only got so much this and so much that. And stay tuned. I got a new song coming out for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Happy Earth Day, everybody. Every day is Earth Day. Bye-bye.